Okay, here with one Joanne Groves. Joanne, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. And everyone, Joanne's hailing from all the way from the UK. That rhymed. That rhymed.
Can probably tell by the accent.
Just slightly. It's a slight accent. It's very. Well,
But it could be worse because where I actually live, if I go about a mile down the road, I start getting the twang, the Birmingham twang.
the
And I
Birmingham
don't
twang.
like, yeah, we can start going like that. But
Oh, that might be harder to understand a little bit. I don't know. Wow. Well, I'm happy to have you here, a fellow fitness and wellness colleague. And we're going to talk a little bit today about kind of misinformation and fitness influencers and whole thing. And I know you and I are in a similar committee together with IDEA, and we have these conversations amongst our colleagues. And I'd like to kick it off just a little bit about where do you see this at right now? What's the state of fitness with influencers and information, kind of a high level in your mind?
I think it's a great question and it does need to be discussed.
Mhm.
Influencers they've got a lot of power over reaching a lot of people, which is a good thing because they are getting people moving. But obviously, it's that what is underneath what they're offering. Now,
Mm,
what is the quality of what they're offering, and can they be trusted when we're doing a workout from home ourselves on our own? However, on the flip side, the challenge is for those of us that do have a formal education within the fitness industry, how do we reach those people as well? Because it's
mm,
easy to kind of sit back and go, oh damn, the influencers, they've got a hold of everyone and they're reaching them and they're getting them moving. Damn those influencers, they're actually getting them off their chairs and
yeah.
out there and being inspired. So I can kind of see that what I would like is to see more of our trainers and more of our clubs in a way helping the industry grow so that we can have that presence as well on social media, so that we can have that level of education there that people can trust.
Yeah. I was actually just discussing this kind of on the other day. It seems to be a common topic. I think it's like, as you said, there's good things, getting people to move, and then, but there's other things is that humans don't often, at least our current version, I think, of humans, look underneath the hood too much about these things. So we see the beautiful people, we see the joyfulness, the happiness. Every post is, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's beautiful, but I don't think the public understands what's happening behind the scenes for that. We're not asking enough questions. The public isn't asking questions too much, I don't think, at least.
And I think that that is key, is the questions that we're
Yeah.
asking. When we see, six pack after six pack,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't see the meal they had the next day and the six pack's gone, and the fact that they've actually been in calorie deficit for months
Yeah.
beforehand, putting all this hard work in, but now they've got their 132 photographs to take them through the season of Instagram, and they still just scrolled through and found someone else who, damn them, has a six pack that's
Yeah.
better than theirs. So that sort of comparison is not a great thing at all. And
Yeah.
the information, the simple solutions, how many times have we seen the 5 best exercises for? And as soon as we see that, I'm like, well, there isn't a 5 exercises for your bum. Sorry, there's not a 5 best exercises to get you out of experiencing pain.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I think coming back to your point of questioning, that to me is key, because even within the fitness industry and as educators, we need to hold our hands up and we need to keep questioning ourselves. Just because we're an educator, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be open to being questioned.
Yes.
And I think that that's really important, because I've been in the industry for a long time,
Mhm.
and I have been told on great authority, according to my friend, according to this guru, that I should be doing this and that.
Yeah.
And actually, it took me a very long time to get the confidence to be able to question those gurus and to question the educators. And so I think if we can actually create an environment where we are all open to debate, we're all open to being questioned, then we can start to move that forward.
I agree. And I think on the flip side, while the questions we should ask influencers, as you said, the same thing, what are the questions the public should be asking people like us who have a lot of education, have been pretty successful in the business? And one of the things I ask, like, what are we doing that we're not gaining better traction with people? And but because we ask the question, well, why are people listening to these folks, influence, but why should they listen to us also, though,
Well, like you said, they offer a simple solution. And it's the Raz and Mataz, and it's the, get this, get that. And we know that's always been there,
It's always been there.
It's always been there. It's not, I know it's more readily available, but there's always been the story that's kind of got someone going and thinking, oh, I want to be like this person, or I want to be like that person. So it is a challenge. It is definitely a challenge, but I would like to see more educators talking openly about how they were wrong, actually making themselves vulnerable and sharing that human side. People don't buy education, and they don't buy things. They buy a story. They buy into that person. And so I think as educators, we probably need to work harder at being the person that they want to get to know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was also talking to someone the other day, and this was in a different industry. This was in concert photography, but it was kind of like this desire to document oneself all the time. That seems to be what is a big part of influencer culture, was just constant documentation. But I think that's also kind of what's hard for very educated fitness professionals, is sometimes a desire not to do that. And there's a weird balancing act. Like, I know I struggle with that. Like, I like to do things socially on the internet, but I don't want my life out there either. Not because I have anything to hide. I just like, there's things my life shouldn't be open for everyone to see. And sometimes I think what happens with influencer culture is like, it's the perception that this is my life. And so I think it's a weird dance. I know so many people on social media who actually don't want to be on there, and they feel like they have to do it to get big or become viral,
Yeah. My children don't want to be on social media.
Interesting.
They're all back, they're like, don't put me on there. I've said, oh, come on, it'd be great to get you on there, and people can see my daughter training or my son through lockdown, and they're like, no way, they don't want to be tagged in at all. So I think we might see the reverse of that as well, as people wean themselves off it, and they've kind of had enough, and they know that that's not the real world. So it is different. But we have a lot of reality TV here as well, like Love Island,
of course.
And I mean, that's amazing, because that is the essence of simple story. And I love Love Island because where else do you get that, where these gorgeous people come onto set, and they are the people from social media that have never been knocked back in a nightclub. They are the beautiful people. And then all of a sudden, the writers know exactly what they're doing. And they then bring on, this other goddess or this other godlike figure. And all of a sudden, this person who has only ever experienced people looking at them, desiring them, and life being quite simple in that respect, are suddenly knocked back. And so they do that on purpose. And they're really just manipulating us as the audience to go, this is the person that I didn't think I was, because, hey, they're so beautiful. But then they see this more beautiful person coming on. So now they go, oh, no, that is me. That is me. So now I can relate to this person. And in a way, that's all they're doing. And then creating story, creating drama, creating highs, creating lows. Then they come off and they hit social media and get that following. And so perhaps what we can do is start to think about how we relate to our audience. And like you said, keep certain things private.
Yeah.
But also create a character for social media that is quite simple, that people can follow, but then shares information and gets people moving.
The character part's interesting to me. Do you mean like, is this character your actual self or someone else that you're trying to be?
I would say that it's elements of yourself, but find what it is that you authentically believe in, what's driving you. But then think of your own things that stand in the way, because as humans, we've always got something that's the polar opposite, that is our hurdle to constantly get over. And keep it simple. I mean, if you look at something like Breaking Bad, I think Walter White has something like 13 different personas in that. And that's too much for social media.
Of course.
You need one strong characteristic and then an opposite, because it's the opposite then that you can start to play off. And this will help our audience engage with us, because what the influencers do really well is they're consistent with their message. Yeah, this is me. This is a six-pack. This is what I don't eat. This is my six-pack. This is the tea that I eat. And I don't eat anything else. I just drink my tea.
Right.
But if we can tap into that characteristic conflict, then we become real within social media. We become vulnerable, but we are informative at the same time.
Yeah. It's a fascinating conversation. I have a lot of thoughts running through my head, but I want to go back to, you said, admitting that we're wrong, like educators, people in business. I want to talk further about that. Let's dive deeper. Admitting what that we were wrong about. Let's get deeper into that.
Well, when you were speaking before and you said that we've been the master of shams for many, many years.
Completely.
And we certainly have. I mean, let's face it, a lot of our fitness industry was built around dead bodies. It was then built on competing, periodization to get rid of drugs out of our body. There's a lot of things, rub this part, rub that part, and that's nothing new. Medicine started the same way. If I put Netflix on and I've put it on 4 times and it's rained every time I've put it on, now Netflix controls the weather. No, that doesn't work quite like that. And even in my journey, 28 years or whatever, I have definitely done almost anything you could do wrong. I've done it, and I will still do things wrong again, and not because the science has changed, because the science doesn't change that much. What changes is that ability to ask a question and to improve the question that you're asking. And so it's always coming back to removing our ego and who's the client, what do they want? With movement, I would say that a movement on its own or an exercise on its own is irrelevant, is absolutely useless if you're not thinking about the human being who it's designed for. Once you know who it's for, what their goal is, why their goal is important to them. So what if they don't achieve that goal? Once you start to understand the person that you're talking to, then your exercise programs have meaning and they have purpose. And So constantly going back to what is it they want and what's the best way of helping them achieve that. Not going, well, I've designed this product and this is this great thing and this is the solution for, oh yes, there needs to be a problem here. We need to have a tight what's it or other, and then this can drill into it. And it's got a little Lego piece at the end of it as well, and that can drill in and that will solve that problem. But that's not the problem. And so it's a clever solution for a problem that doesn't exist. And so what we need to do is to keep going back to who's our client, what's their goal, and what does the research, the balance of research, and as you rightly said, not a cherry-picked paper that confirms your own bias, but that you're looking at hundreds of papers, that you're reading. I always say that whatever your bias is, do read the complete opposite.
Yes.
And we do have biases, and it is hard to take those away, but we need to read the balance of quality research and then let that start to underpin our answers. I'm not one of the clever ones that has an idea and goes, hey, I've got this brilliant idea and I'm going to go and test it. And then I'm going to get somebody else to retest it. That's not me. Those PhDs, awesome. That take my hat off to that. But it doesn't mean that as educators, we can't be critical thinkers and we can't go away and go, right, question, what is it?
Yeah.
Then look at that balance. And as you said, start to look at the filter. First of all, we're going to get information from social media. We're going to get information from YouTube. We're going to get it from scientific blogs. We're going to get it from scientists, but we still need to question them. We need to question what their bias is. And we then need to go and ask the question. And we need to look at the research. I mean, because I don't have that PhD and, I would never have time to present or train my clients if I couldn't get rid of the papers that weren't any good. So I'm quickly going, okay, this was done on 12 rats. Irrelevant.
Exactly.
This one was done on cockroaches. Cool. I like it. I'm going to read it, but I'm probably going to put that down there. So I'm always looking at what's my filter, what's the level of research that I'm prepared to stand by.
Yeah.
And I think as educators and anyone, the level that you'll go by is really going to set your reputation. And the one thing that a lot of influencers have is we know they talk absolute utter rubbish a lot of the time. And so with that, it's kind of trustworthy. We know what we're going to expect. The danger for me is when someone quotes a really good paper and then they quote according to their experience, or they call out to authority to their friend, their important friend. Because now what they've said is, I follow research, but actually in an environment that had no rigor of science to it whatsoever, I used my evidence, which is what I saw. And that's great. That's still evidence.
Right.
But it's not the same evidence as the paper that was tested and the papers that you put against the balance of quality research. And so I think that creating that line, that trust, so I call it my line in my sand. And my original line was very poor. I just used to ask my dad, what do you think? And he would normally come out with something from the Daily Mail or the Sun. Quite a trashy paper over here, but it was consistent.
Okay. That consistency is a big part of it, I think. And I also wonder, what is the responsibility and the role of organizations like IDEA or any of these certifying organizations to use their power and media to lift up more credentialed people, or to even say things like, we've been a part of an industry that kind of lies to people about stuff in the past, and we're trying to do better. What's the role of these organizations in this whole influencer culture?
There are challenges. And I think we go back to the characteristic conflicts, because we're in business, and this is where the conflict lies.
Correct.
Because sometimes the people that pay well are the people that have a product to sell that may not necessarily be the one that, when we look at the research, is what we would use, or a technique. So I'm not saying anything specific. And so that's challenging, because if you need to, expand your business, you need people to invest in your business. But what I would like to see is definitely perhaps that opening up and that ability to debate, get lots of people with lots of different thought processes in. And so then we can start to say, well, what is it that underpins your opinion here? And what is it that underpins your opinion? And be humble enough that if we're wrong, we change.
Yeah. That's hard for people. People don't like admitting they're wrong. Like it's a real difficult thing throughout the history of humans, is admitting that we were not right about this. I mean, how many examples do you see of people actually admitting, like, publicly, I was wrong, we were wrong? And I mean, you don't see it that often,
No, I hate admitting I'm wrong.
See?
And a real pivotal point for me was when I literally had been to lots of different educators. I was very fortunate in what I did to be able to be exposed to lots of different education companies. And one of the courses I did, I was really super excited about it, because it gave me this feeling of being a mini Jesus. All of a sudden, I was fixing people. People were coming to me, like, I can't move my arm, and I do these things, and then suddenly, like, whoa, they got this great amount of range, and and all of a sudden they would tell people, and I had a waiting list. And at the time, I was using this little spoon because I was waiting for my actual technique tool to come along, and I was spooning everyone in Wimbledon. And life was good, it was great. And then I got a phone call from this company, Faster, and the founder of Faster said to me, oh, that course? We were wrong. And do you know what? It wasn't the fact that he said it was wrong. First of all, I kind of went, oh, that's another $2,000 down the drain. I'll just go and do the next course because I want to be ahead and learn. The worst thing is he said, no, I want you to come back on the course for free because we want to help you be the best. And it was our mistake. We didn't ask the right questions. But he said to me, you've been in the industry for a long time and you shouldn't trust me. And I want you to have the tools to question me. And nobody had ever said that to me before.
Wow.
And I would like to say that from that moment, I questioned him, but that would have been too easy, or too hard, should I say. It was actually too hard, because it meant that I had to let go of my gurus. It meant that, I had to give up the time that I was watching Netflix and teach myself to look at research papers and ask questions and improve my critical thinking. I was an actress. So my degree was dressing up and going out in the streets, and that sounds wrong.
You can't take that back, Joanne.
Oh no. As a character. And, it was really useful because I was aware of biomechanics, I was aware of posture, I had to be someone. So if I wanted to be really confident, I would make my posture look confident. And if I was, if I was shy, I would create that body shape that matched it. And so I was really in tune with mood and being responsive to the person in front of me. But the critical thinking, no.
Yeah.
And you know, it wasn't easy, but it was definitely the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Actually, I think we have a critical thinking problem in our world at this point. You know, we are just a very headline based world. And we read something and we don't read. And now we tell people this will take 3 minutes to read. This will take 7 minutes to read. Because we're like, well, you're probably not going to read this if we don't tell you it's short to read.
Yep.
And we also know you really don't have good digital research literacy. So we got to make this interesting in the headline so that you'll even think about clicking on it to even possibly look at it. And so that critically think about, why are we trusting influencers? Why would we trust educated professionals? I think it always goes back. We're just not asking the questions at all with people. We're just like ingesting something and we're not asking what's inside, what's in the product. We're eating something that we have no clue what's in it all the time. And we're like, and it's okay. You know, people go, it's okay. I like it. And it's also appealing to people's desire, especially online stuff, to like look good, feel good. I want your life. I want that type of situation. I want your money. I want this. Like, and I think sometimes some people are really great at pulling people in to that. They go, I know you want this. Don't you want this? You want this, you know? And I think we struggle sometimes with questioning that, because this other thing kicks in for us. Yeah, I do want that. I do want that. And you just won't question it, you know?
Yeah. And so that is our challenge as educators, how we interject with that. And I think that's where really story, I think, helps.
And the story too is, I've had a lot of scientists on here too, is there needs to be a shift in my mind in scientists of any background, whether you're talking about astronomy, exercise, wildlife. Scientists often have this aesthetic issue or this presentation issue of kind of the stuffy scientist writing research papers, not relatable to people who are living daily lives, living in kind of the ivory tower of academia. I mean, I know I've been in it. And the academic environment I grew up in, I got my doctorate in, was filled with people who are not relatable to everyday people. They're just not. So this story is not, you talked about a story, the academic story is not relatable to most humans who have PhDs, higher education. But the story of trying to get six-pack abs, you know, trying to lose weight, whatever it is so relatable to most humans because the desire is relatable to a lot of humans, you know?
And it seems easier as well.
It does.
You know, and it interests me as well, the scientists that are absolutely smashing it on TikTok, and you say 3 minutes for a read, and they're actually like, we're talking 4 seconds, you know, we're talking, you've got to smash that topic in 15 seconds max.
Yeah.
You know, I think the average time is 7 seconds, and
that's
then
crazy
out of there, you know. But there are scientists now that are doing well there, and can then go and follow them, and you can then go and look at their YouTube channel, and then you can go and check their research papers. How many people will do that? I don't know.
I don't know. But what does that say about us, that we need stuff in 7 seconds? You know, like, or we have, like, what does it say about humans that we have to keep packaging this in shorter and shorter time spans, and that it has to be put in such a way or else we just won't pay attention to it, you know?
Maybe that goes back to, you know, is there a danger? Is that tiger going to eat me?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, where's this all headed, Joanne? You know, like, I think about this a lot, and like, I feel like there's an end game here, and not like being over, but like there's a transition game that I think may be happening. And I think your kids know it, and kids who are younger, they sense it. Like you said, they say, this isn't real. This is not real life. It's the people your age, my age, and like who haven't gotten to it yet. They're like, oh yeah, but I feel like the young people, they're like, this is bullshit. Like they're calling bullshit on it. They're like, we're not getting on this stuff. And I feel like something's happening. I feel it with that, you know?
Yeah. I think only time is going to tell on
Yeah.
that. But I think if we can help more certified trainers
Yeah.
have that ability currently to have a following on social media,
Yeah.
at least we're raising the standard and the content that is out there. I think that would be a useful start.
And that's why I think like the large organizations, it might be a good experiment to take, you know, people who may be really well credentialed or very educated and they're great at their job, and try to lift those people up and say, we're going to make you a larger influencer, for lack of a better word, in that, to help kind of combat what's going on with that. I just don't know that like, I don't see that happening though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see the organizations like, okay, we're going to take these 10 people on this committee and we're going to make them like big time influencers because we need to combat this. I don't know that they're interested in that, you know?
And like you said, you know, it's that it isn't real. And
Not real.
you know, some people do see through that and they will search harder than just looking at those 5 exercises for glutes. That annoys me.
That clearly annoys you. I don't like it either, by the way.
There is no one best exercise for, if that's the only thing you get from today.
Yeah, there's no best. No. It's crazy. You know, it's like I grew up in a time where it's like, I don't know if you remember this, all the late night fitness infomercials and stuff.
Yep.
And it's all so ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. But for some reason, it takes in this desire that people have to want to look better, feel better, and do anything to achieve a result. There's like the ethics be damned of it, you know, the carnage be damned. Whatever happens, happens. I need to look this way. I need to feel this way, you know, and we've promoted that in as an industry. We have been a horrible contributor to that for a long time. And I feel like we need to get rid of that element, you know?
Yeah. I think there's still a lot of that need to stand up and go, you know what, that is perhaps not the best way of going.
Yeah.
The ab cruncher. Do you remember the ab cruncher?
I do remember the ab cruncher. Yes. Shake weight. How about the shake weight?
Well, I am seen, just so that I use the core momentum trainer, which is not shake weight.
Yeah.
If people are trying to throw an insult without reading research on why I use it, they'll go, oh, you got shake weight. I'm like, you clearly never used it, because the shake is like this size and has nothing in it. Whereas the core momentum trainer, it used to be called a core stick, but to be fair, a loading tool is a loading tool. And if you understand biomechanics and you understand the skill that you're trying to improve, you can do anything to load it.
But you know what's weird is it's the how it's presented. I'm a big proponent of like how things are presented, and the presentation is everything. How it's delivered to you, it's everything from how you grow up. How did your parents present XYZ topic to you? How did your brother, sister present XYZ? How did your professor? How did your spouse? Whatever. And the fitness industry, I think you're right. If it's loaded and you can move it, and you can use different planes of motion, fine, it's fine. You can use a milk jug, you can use a box, it doesn't matter. But when you sell
details through lockdown,
but if you sell something that, it looks like somebody's doing something weird, maybe sexual, they like it, they're not stupid. They know that appeals to people, and it's the presentation of things. And I think the fitness industry has a presentation problem a lot of the times.
Absolutely. 100%. It's just reminding me of the thigh squeezers.
Oh, well. Yeah. I remember with wow, man, I can't remember the lady's name, but man, people get in, they make a ton of money and they get out of it, and then the next thing comes together. It's almost like the fitness industry is a Ponzi scheme in many ways,
And I think, it's not always about someone wanting to make a quick buck.
Thigh master, by the way, that's what it is.
Thigh master, that's the one.
Thigh master, Suzanne Summers.
That's right. Yeah. And so, and I do believe that a lot of people do get into it because they want to help.
Yeah.
And they see people, that maybe are suffering or aren't, sort of comfortable in exercise, or it's foreign to them, and they want to make it easier. I believe that sometimes there is goodwill there, just sometimes a little bit misguided. I mean, the core momentum trainer I was talking about, it took 7 years to design. And it took that long because they wanted to make sure that the lead pellets inside the core unit spun round to hit exactly the right point. And that was more for sort of physiotherapy world. But, like you said, you can apply any bit of loading if you stand by mechanics.
Now, why don't we have commercials out, whether it's Peloton, whether it's tonal, you pick something. And I always think, like, why isn't there a commercial that says the exercise or getting started to move is hard? It's like, really, it's difficult. Like, we understand there's a lot of obstacles in your way. And biologically and anthropologically, what we're doing doesn't make a lot of sense when we look at that, our history. But we do need to take care of our bodies. Like, there's no message about that. It's like the most beautiful people are always in a commercial. Peloton, it's always in the nicest house you've ever seen, with all glass windows. Like, I used to run a luxury club, and all the houses looked like that, but most people don't have houses like that. It's like it's the presentation, the messaging is like, you're beautiful. If you're beautiful, you have a lot of money, you can have this. Like, you can, and Christmas morning, you can wake up and do a Peloton workout. Okay, no, most people aren't doing that, by the way. I'm like, they ain't doing that. That's not realistic. I
like the little weights on the top, though.
Yeah. It's got a messaging problem. It's like, that's not real life for like the majority of humans. It's real life for a very tiny segment of humans that already love exercise a lot. And they're catering to that. But if you want to change the planet, the messaging has to change completely on that. But once you get into business and you have shareholders and you businesses, like you said, we're in business. That's the problem. In a sense,
and because those that are marketing the business, they want you to nail it down to a simple product, to a brand. And so that doesn't have room for the questioning all the time. Not so easy to wrap up, bottle, and sell. It's not as sexy as you said. I think it's interesting when you talk about getting people to exercise, and it's hard, but in the same light, I do believe you can make it fun.
No, it's just like the starting is hard for people. It's like, hey, getting started is hard. Anything. I mean, you may want to like start a puzzle and you're like, the puzzle's just sitting in a corner forever. You're like unopened. Starting anything is hard. Just the acknowledgement of like starting something, even like this, is hard to do. Like, it's okay to admit that.
And I think the training session, when you go for your very first training session, from the prospect of the personal trainer, if you can make that training session one that makes someone feel fantastic, and they don't quite know why, but you've created an emotional journey.
Emotion.
They come out like they've just been to the cinema, and they go, do you know what? I expected this, that, and that. I felt great. And then I feel brilliant the next day or 2 days later. But that's an art.
It's an art.
Requires the trainer to know the person in front of them, to make sure they're matching how they want to feel in the session through energy systems, how they want to feel after that session, the biomechanics that they choose, the exercises, the movement, with the selection of exercise in the right order. That's all going to create the experience, and it's the experience that's going to bring them back.
It's totally the experience. And I think this plays, as we kind of get towards the end here, we'll throw this in, like the acting. aspect in your background. I often think, my own personal opinion is the exercise, the order, the progression to everything, that's very important. But it's the performance, the actual person's performance as a human in the session. As we're often, a lot of trainers have difficulty. They don't often see it as like, this is a performance you're having. It's like, well, I'm good at the exercise. Yeah, but if you're good at the exercise, but you're not good at the actual intrapersonal performance with another human, it almost is irrelevant in many ways, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I do improv and I do it every
Yeah,
week. And I do it because it keeps me sharp
that's right.
on listening and responding to
Yes.
someone. And those sorts of skills with a client are essential. And,
Yes.
you know, they might have a challenge. Everybody has a different area that's their challenge. And so when they come in, it's almost like it is the story, because you're setting the scene.
Yes.
You're giving them the anticipation for the workout. You know, you make them feel good. You give them what they want. And then it's like any good movie. Elle at the beginning of Legally Blonde, she's happy, she's queen bee, she's got a boyfriend, and then he dumps her and she's off to Harvard. And so it's at that point that you have to slam them. And that's when you create that debate, and that's when we get to use our skills as trainers at changing the experience. So they might well be tired, you know, they might well be you know, but you get to change that experience, because you can help their cognition, you can help the action they take from that emotion. And then, you know, you take them out at the end of that and you replay what they did at the beginning, and they're so much better, you know. And at the end of the day, they'll judge us. They will judge us on how we made them feel.
Yes. I mean, that's a great way to end it. That's true. That's so true. Well, Joanne, what a good talk about a variety of things and in the business. I mean, every once in a while, I'd like to have this big talk about our industry. And it's good. I feel like it's good that we have looked at kind of both sides of the equation. And often do you question your own self? People like us, we're questioning us. Like, what are we doing? Why are we, you know? And I think that's positive, and hopefully it's a good example to others. So thank you, Joanne. It's evening time where you're at. Morning. I still have more work to do. You got something else to do too. I know you were just saying.
I have. Yes, it's been lovely to chat. Thank you for having me on.
You got it. We'll be in touch, Joanne. All right.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.